Hello and welcome to Edukemy's YouTube channel. My name is Harsh Singh and in this video we shall discuss current affairs and Gazette for today, 25th of February 2022. Before we begin, let me welcome all of you here. Amlan, Bhabani, Netra, Hima, Vivek, Kriti, Ashish, Sheikh, good evening to you as well. Kanupriya, good to see you, right? And then we have Mithun, good evening. Who else writing answers here? Tiyasha, good evening to you. Thank you for attending this. All right. Vakram, good evening to you as well. Welcome all of you. Now, special appreciation to the people who have written these answers. Prabhavati, good evening. Prabhavati and another person who joined today, I request you to start writing. All these people, they wouldn't write earlier, but through insistence, through seeing the other people write, they initiated. And everybody is at a different level of the game. No worries, no problem. But then we have to begin it someday or the other. So why not begin in a company, right? And then through this, we will self-reform and we will also support each other, right? So this is a great initiative. Sheikh, you as well, start writing, right? There's no right, there's no wrong, but then we can always learn together, right? So this is the point that we gain from here. And before we begin, let me acknowledge a couple of people here. I would like to mention Mithun here. Mithun has mentioned the points that he has collected just from the last few days. Seaweed, palm oil production, Panruti cashew, all these taught in the last couple of weeks. So even if you start picking up the current affairs from the last couple of weeks, you will still be able to form an answer. That's the beauty of answer writing, that it is all about your level of creativity, right? And of course, including some rationality. That means the question must be addressed through that, right? So that is what is required. But otherwise, good that you people are attempting, and special acknowledgement to people who are revising the material that they're writing and looking at others' content as well. So great. A question asked was, Sir, regularity makes a person disciplined or discipline makes the person regular? I think, is it not both the ways? Once you become disciplined here in the conversations with me, just a bit, please. So once you become disciplined with answer writing, this breeds regularity as well. This breeds regularity. Why so? Because once you have the taste of the discipline, you would always want to do it, right? Because you will find joy in the monotonity. Joy in monotonity. I had read an article years back, and it spoke about the person who was frisking at the metro stations, right? So CISF guard frisking at the metro stations. What is the joy in their work? It is highly monotonous work. Look at the person who cooks at our home, highly monotonous cooking at multiple homes. Look at our parents themselves working for years and years, and then they would keep on working for years and years. So there is a joy in monotonity, just that we have to reach that level to be able to appreciate that joy and understand what is the long-term or mid-term consequence. There is, of course, joy in, there is, immediate gratification in diversity of work, quickly switching on to something else, but a little depth will give us a lot of discipline, and that will breed in regularity. This is one way. On the other hand, if we are regular, this is something that is going to open ways to discipline. Why? Because if we are regular with meditating at a particular thing, someday or the other, new avenues, new understanding will open up, and we ourselves will scale the heights for gaining new understandings on the same concept. So this is the reason I like you to note down your notes, because after a month you would like to really smile at those notes, saying that this is too much I have written, I just needed to write a few points. So you would have attained a different level of discipline only through regularity. See, a couple of months now you people have been writing, and now you've escalated yourself to writing 3 answers. And not only that, I also see there is an enthusiasm to write this as soon as possible, and also learning together. So this has happened through regularity, and regularity has bred discipline. On the other hand, discipline has also reinforced regularity, right? So both of it together, that's what I feel. All right, so let's begin this conversation, and there are quite a few interesting articles here. Scheme for Border Infrastructure and Management. This has been again funded by the government yet again. The second one is a draft plan on integrated plant nutrition, a draft policy on the same. And the third one is crude oil prices and how they're going to impact the country and the whole world as well, right? You people have mentioned quite a few points on this. This day in history, India taken off the polio endemic list. We will understand more there. Free trade agreement, we'll understand what is the meaning of free trade agreement, what are the different kinds of agreements, what is the situation of India, and how this article is a development of the last article we covered a few months back. So Hima, take a note of that, right? We will cover updates here. And this is the best part, all of you, that if you've covered that article once, you would see that there are only updates about it. There are only updates and maybe some concepts to be discussed. But otherwise, if your concepts are clear, right? If you understand what is the meaning of most favored nation, or if you understand the concept of rules of origin, once you will always be able to understand where India is lagging, and you will only need better examples. So we will discuss the example of USA, we will discuss the example of UAE today, right? So those are the updates, and they will only be just like the icing on the cake, cherry on top of the cake, right? So that is why I ask you to note down the fundamentals. These are very important parts of paper 3, paper 2 governance, international relation paper 2, and paper 3 economy complete, right? Image of the day on biosafety level 3 lab, the first one in Asia here, South Asia. Terms and concepts, MILAN 2022, the largest of its kind exercise being conducted by Indian Navy. Quantum key distribution test, illegal trade of sea cucumbers and star campaigners, all foreign news. 3 editorials that we have, one on digital media literacy, the second one is on Europe and how it is going through the turmoil, and the third one is on food systems in India. Case study on a very beautiful marriage conducted without the pomp and show. All right, so let's start this conversation and discussion. All right, okay, so what do we have in the first article? This is hardly required to be understood because of the prime reason that you people have mentioned such beautiful points here, the problems in the border areas, and what are the solutions. You people have actually mentioned both of them, right? So very good here. Let me just read out quickly what you people have yourself mentioned, so that if you're noting down, you might as well have a quick review of the same. All right, so the question that I had asked you people was 5 challenges in border management and 5 technology to enable the same, right? To enable the border infrastructure management. So when you mentioned the challenges as cross-border terrorism, all right, it is because of undulated terrain. There are forests at places, there are mountains at places, the places are located at high altitude. Imagine those places where humans reaching out physically is very, very tough, right? So when I mention the problem, look at the solution. When human reaching at that place is tough, can we have cyborgs? Can we have artificial intelligence? Can we also have geographical information system mapped to that place? Right? Can we also have sensors put at that particular place? Or what about the infrared sensors or Autobots, robots functioning there? So an alternate solution available there, right? So cross-border terrorism, all right. Smuggling of drugs and narcotics is a challenge, right? Smuggling not only through the 15,000 kilometer land border, but also 7,500 kilometer of marine borders, right? So lately, it is not only Rajasthan, but also Maharashtra. These 2 states, along with Punjab and Jammu Kashmir, these 4 states, in fact, are those which are mostly affected by narcotics and drug trade, all coming through to India because of decent demand and also presence of the golden quadrilateral and the other circuit around it, right? So a good point mentioned there. Then the third one is the border challenges, illegal immigrants, all right, nicely mentioned. Corruption in security, all right, we know about the corruption in security because of the Ministry of Home Affairs scheme, where the border management huts that were to be formed, they were not formed accurately, right? The temperature maintenance in those high altitude areas, it was not happening in the 2-floor buildings. Difficult terrain management, all right. Then additional issues that you people have put here are, okay, some suggestions as well, using drones, having registration for migrant people coming to the country. This is where you should also look at the porosity of borders, and not only porosity, but what should be the way to handle. For example, inner line permits in the 4 northeastern states. Those are the ones which offer the people coming from Myanmar to India, they can go back, and people can go from India to Myanmar because of the same issue that is between Ukraine and Russia, same issue that is between Pakistan and Afghanistan. But people's origin is same. The Chin community does exist in Myanmar and does exist in Mizoram, both of them. How can we segregate them, and how can we demarcate a border and give them a nationality and ask them not to get into the other territory? So this is where we need better engagements with those other nationals yet relatives. Along with that, we need better security presence so that there is no mishap handling them. All right. So tense neighborhood, good point, right? So neighborhood from all these sides are getting attention. Bangladesh was at a particular point of time, and then we have China, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and then Myanmar on the east, Sri Lanka on the south. All of these places from where people have we have had porous borders in some way or the other, right? So drone is a good technology to use. Good point mentioned. No proper demarcation of borders, rough topography, all right. And then the village program, dual village program, that is a good solution. A village used for military purposes as well, and also has establishment of the locals, right? Both of it, so that the economy also gets regulated at that particular place, along with maintenance of decent security. This can happen at all the places, Ladakh as well and Northeast as well, and also along the western borders. And these people are actually they support the Indian defense systems also. They are informers for us, right? So many ways it is a support for the whole structure. All right, so good points mentioned there, all of you. Agreed, right? So very well done here. So what is the scheme about? Scheme is about, all right, the same thing, village. If you remember, we are also initiating a village program, no? Village along the borders, right? Vibrant village program along the borders. This is a new program that has been initiated in the in this particular budget itself. But then that becomes a part of this old program, border infrastructure and management. What border infrastructure management? We are looking at creation of or development of border roads through Border Road Organization. This was an organization established in the year 1960, and since then all the border roads are being created and maintained by them. All right, given support through India's defense forces as well. All right, so this is an important component here. Strengthening and improving the border management, creation of infrastructure like border outpost, right, along all these borders. And oh, by the way, a question for you people: which is the country with which India has the longest border or boundary? Which is the country? Is it Pakistan or China or Myanmar or Bangladesh? Which is the country? Please type it here. So what are the initiatives? Smart fencing. We have not been able to fence physically, but then smart fencing can be used at places where we have electronic fences, where we will have surveillance through radars or thermal imagers, infrared, all of them. So one will be able to understand if somebody is crossing the border or crossing a particular area or not, right? So this is smart fencing, comprehensive integrated border management, right? I think this is the full form of this. Along with that, vibrant villages program. Yes. So border villages will be given that dual capacity, security and establishment as well. So establishment through greater connectivity, provision of water services, economy. I had explained one of the examples to you. It was in Afghanistan, where the US forces would free of cost give people dollars, free of cost. Because once they distribute the finances to them, they would want to purchase something with it. Somebody would purchase dry fruit, somebody would purchase rice, somebody would purchase some clothes. And once they start purchasing, they will purchase from the local economy, somebody else will be producing them. So there is a rigor in the economy. And this is what India is also doing here in the border villages, which are not so well off. So let me see if you people have pointed out the state. Yes, Bangladesh. Wow, nice. All of you saying the same thing. Hi, Astha. Vivek, Ashish, Ashutosh, Amlan, Mithun, Kriti, Hima, Netra, all of you. Correct. Thank you. So Bangladesh is the one with which we have the maximum border. And then what are the security agencies? So with Bangladesh and Pakistan, we have these border security force, BSF. With China, we have Indo-Tibetan Border Police, right? Along Jammu Kashmir, along Himachal, Uttarakhand, Bhutan, Arunachal, all of them, right? And then with Nepal, we have Sashastra Seema Bal, right? And then we also have a couple of more security forces, Central Industrial Security Forces. These are the ones for securing the industrial units, PSU units of the government, metro, etc. And BHEL, BEL, all of them wherever distributed. And then we have CRPF, Central Reserve Police Force. They are police force, but then reserved, used during contingencies. Where are they used? Largely in the Naxal affected states, left-wing extremism. The second one is Kashmir. And the third one is Northeast, right? 90% of them deployed at these places, 10% at peace locations. What about the Northeast? So Myanmar border, Assam Rifles, and military, they are the ones which take care of it. So this is the situation. And see, the deployment of physical resources is tough. So rather use electronic or automated resources for these places. And that is how India has also had very good relationship with Israel for border protection, because Israel goes through the same issue that India goes through here, right? So fences, the physical fences which are marked, they are cut at places and people intrude. That same thing happens in Israel also. So we do not need to have those places bombed. We do not need to throw a missile at those places. All we need is an electronic fencing system. Vibrant Villages is a good scheme with China also. Somehow China also uses a program like this. We are learning from them. So integrated border area development program, right? So provide them food, water, everything, and also ensure that they live in peace there. The second update is on integrated plant nutrition management bill, right? So plant nutrition, see, this is not for us. This is plant nutrition that we are talking of, and plant has got various kind of inputs. For example, water, seed, sunlight, all of them. But the prime nutrient which leads the plant to grow is the fertilizers. And fertilizer use efficiency in India is poor. Fertilizer subsidy in India is close to 1 lakh crore. This is close to 1 lakh crore fertilizer subsidy itself. Imagine this is the magnitude, and a lot of it goes through pilferage or corruption happens through it. Not only that, there are places where it's disparate use of fertilizers. In Punjab, Haryana, Western UP, more use of fertilizers, and at certain places there is less usage of fertilizers. So accordingly, both the places do not receive the proper nutrition for the crops and the soil, right? So if this is the impact, we need to have a policy for plant nutrition, right? What should be the quality of fertilizers available in the market? What should be the pricing of fertilizers available in the market? What is the quantum in which fertilizers should be used by the persons? So this is what this policy is about, right? Now, India has faced during these last 2 years a lot of rise in prices of fertilizers, especially the nutrient-based subsidy fertilizers, diammonium phosphate, and many other fertilizers which are mixture of NPK. Their cost has risen two and a half times as well, and India has had to provide a larger subsidy to this, right? So Ministry of Chemical and Fertilizer has released draft integrated plant nutrition management bill, and it aims to promote development and sustainable use of balanced fertilizers, including biofertilizers, nanofertilizers, organic, all of them. And this is where you should start pointing at, when you look at the solution to these problems, not only regulation of these fertilizers, but also including organic fertilizers and zero budget natural farming wherever it is possible. We are not saying that India will get converted into completely zero budget natural farming state, but you have to remember those 4 components, right? Wherever possible, mulching, let's do it. Wherever possible, processing of the seeds, let's do it. Aeration of the soils, all right, let's do it. All right. So because doing that itself makes the fertilizer more efficient. Imagine if the soil is not well aerated. Imagine if the soil is not tilled properly. If the soil is not tilled, you understand tilling, no? If the soil is not tilled, then the fertilizer itself will not be able to percolate, a little below the topsoil, and this will impact the production of the crop as well, right? So when India looks at Atmanirbhar or self-sufficiency, we already are self-sufficient, but this is called as food security. But what about nutrition security? We do not become nutrition security. We have not become a nutrition secure state, because we either have a malnutrition or we have hyper level of fertilizers and pesticides present. This is also not nutrition. This is polluted food that we are eating. Or there are people with obesity as well. None of them is a state of nutrition security. Obesity is not a condition of nutrition security, right? All right, so price management of fertilizer, this is what we're going to deal here. Restriction on the sale and use of fertilizer, genetically modified biofertilizer or stimulants, those will be controlled, right? Enforcement of this act to be done by a responsible authority, right? Offenses also. So when you look at a scheme like this will not get asked in the exam directly, but fertilizer could definitely be a question. If I was a person to, put a question, I would have definitely included, fertilizer under agriculture, water, fertilizer. These are the important inputs, seeds also. So this is where we have given the links to some of the articles we covered, in the past. Diammonium phosphate, soil health management, right? Sukhet model is a very interesting case study, right, from Bihar. Then nitrogen use efficiency, right? So what is fertilizer nitrogen use efficiency? This is about nano fertilizers, right? Atmanirbhar in phosphatic fertilizers. A question was asked. What, I'm forgetting, that was related to phosphatic fertilizers. What is the element, right? Rock element which we are going to use in India for fertilizer, something like that. The answer was phosphate, and we covered this here, right? This was covered in, I think, June last year, and the exam was in September, right? So one thing you should understand by the fertilizer subsidy, this is something specific to fertilizer subsidy that we have in India, that is that there are two regiments of fertilizer subsidy. Two regiments. This is very, very important for you to know. Two regiments. One is urea specific, where the price is still regulated by the government. On the other hand, the other one is nutrient based subsidy. The price is not regulated directly by the government. Let's understand this to understand the issues and the basic concept. See, when the government introduced the scheme for fertilizer subsidy, because we needed nutrition for that, fertilizer was necessary, and the primary important fertilizers get formed through minerals like nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. All these three. Proportion of this, a right mixture of this. Urea is also a mix of this. Other fertilizers are a mix of this, but urea largely contains a lot of nitrogen. Nitrogen is found in India as well, right? And nitrogen is also found naturally, right? So nitrogen fixing bacteria, rhizobium, etc., pulses. On the other hand, potash and phosphorus, we have been importing a lot of this quantity because we didn't have the processing ability, we didn't have the techno know-how for processing of these fertilizers. We would import, and this would also increase the import burden. So what India did was, India started a regime for giving fertilizers for free, with subsidy, and urea was the most promising one, because urea naturally it was good for India, the subsidy burden was less and people would be able to use it. But then the impact of this was that the proportion of nitrogen was such high that it led to issues with the soil nutrition balance. It got deteriorated, and we needed potassium and phosphorus as well. So therefore in India in 2010 we started another scheme called as nutrient based subsidy, in which mixture of NPK would be given in good proportion and people would be asked to purchase this. Both the schemes have government subsidy. Both of them have government subsidy, but urea has special subsidy. Urea's price has not risen much. The prices of these have risen much, right? In India, the urea prices have been controlled very much by the government. Here, what is done is that when the government fixes the maximum price at which the urea has to be sold in the market, this is the market price. And whatever is the variable price in international market or wherever, the government provides this price to the companies producing urea. So it bears all this, burden, and this is the subsidy cost. On the other hand, nutrient based subsidy, government says that I will give you, if this is the price at which you are importing, I will give you only this specific margin, right? Above this, if you have scalability, you have innovation, your product is in demand, then your price will automatically be low in the market. So there they have given, in NBS they have given only static amount of subsidy. Here the subsidy amount is variable. Issue with subsidy largely is that this subsidy burden is huge, and a lot of subsidy is getting diverted through corruption to other countries, to other places, sold in the open market, and also, of course, consumption is high. And since it is sold in the open market, consumption is high, and that is the reason that we need a policy like this, a bill on plant nutrition management. समझ में आ रहा है? So there is a scheme to it. There is a complete background to it. India has grappled with this issue for years and years. All right. See, Ashutosh also mentions NPK ratio has exceeded its ideal range. Not only exceeded the ideal range, but it has gone way beyond at particular places. So this is where Bhu Parikshak. Do you people remember Bhu Parikshak? 60 seconds into the soil, and that Gazette will be able to tell what is the proportion of the minerals, 6 minerals there. All right. Amran says neem coated fertilizers. All right. Not a problem. Urea in liquid form. All right. Hidden hunger. Yes. Snapshot 3. Snapshot 3 is on crude oil prices in India amid the Ukraine crisis. I had discussed this question. What is the impact on India? So you people had answered it quite well. Let me quickly have a look at your answers once again. All right. So you said rise in inflation, absolutely. Crashing stock market, okay. But what is the impact? Crash market, stock, crash in the stock market. Talk about FII, FDIs, which get out of the country, and it leads to further instability in the investment sector in India, right? That is the impact. Stock market crash is the immediate reaction, but what it leads to is the impact that it causes, right? So rise in inflation is a definite impact. I agree. And if there is less investment in India, then our projects won't run, right? Real estate projects, there are so many other projects that we have planned through the infrastructure schemes. What about them? Right? Then rise in crude oil prices, okay. Bargain from either side, self-reliance and defense, all right, okay. Rise in oil gas prices, diplomatic problems, all right. Volatility, lesser remittances, thank you, good one. Bilateral relation, energy prices, inflation, all right. So largely you people are mentioning the same points, and that's not a problem, that's fine. But what about people to people ties here? 20,000 people, 20,000 children studying in Ukraine, and only 4,000, 5,000 brought back, and after that the whole airspace of Ukraine was shut down. Yesterday the Prime Minister spoke to Russian president as well, and then they are trying to arrange an alternate way to take out all the people, all the children studying there through Poland, right? So that is the route they are looking at right now. Also requested him to you look for a peaceful solution. That's it, right? So don't forget the people to people ties. You're only looking at finances, right? People to people ties are also important, and that is where free trade agreement also plays a role with countries like USA, with countries in Europe, with countries in Middle East, especially UAE. You know the kind of expatriates and Indian population that we have. The diaspora, 25% of UAE population is Indian, right? USA, a huge chunk of Indian population is Indian. Nepal itself. So we should start looking at the people to people ties also, because almost 1/6 of the global population is Indian, right? So among every 6 people, one of them is Indian, even more. Crude oil prices rise and amidst Ukraine crisis, all right? So prices are going to rise. See, the immediate shocks are different, but this will have repercussions. Why? Because if an oil field gets disrupted, or if the petroleum supply gets disrupted, it is not going to get initiated very soon. It will take months and months to recover, right? So simple example of this is because of globalization. Suppose European economies, which are dependent on Russia for transfer of gases, if this transfer stops, because Ukraine is one country through which these gas pipelines run. What about Nord Stream 2? Approval of Nord Stream 2 also has stopped. So Russia will have resources, but it will not be able to pass on. Russia will have a loss. European Union, which was importing from Russia, will have a problem. It will import from USA, and USA is also, so prices will rise. USA is also exporting these gases to India. 50% of our gas consumption is import from countries like UAE, Iran, Iraq, and USA. USA is of course getting advantage here because of the increase in prices of gases, but then it will lead to further inflation in India. So you can see the circular impact of a globalized economy, right? And what about petroleum prices? All of it will rise, right? All of it will rise because they are all connected to each other. This will lead to now this is something that will lead to inflation in the consumer price index also. Food inflation primarily, right? Transport inflation, all of them. So Russia is the key supplier of energy globally, third largest producers of oil and largest and second largest oil exporter, right? So of course, very high prices, $100 a barrel plus. And see, the very good data written here that the just $10 price rise can lead to an impact of around $2.5 billion of deficit for India, because our strategic reserves are also not very high, right? We can preserve it only for a while, but if the prices rise for $100 per barrel for sustained 2-3 months, our strategic reserves won't be able to last for that long, right? So rise in pump prices, LPG, right? Impact on inflation, rupee depreciation. Why depreciation of rupee? Okay, you people didn't mention this point, none of you. So depreciation of rupee is because there is a flight of currency from India. It'll go back to its source, right? FDIs, FIIs, FDI no, ज़्यादा नहीं, FIIs will get lost, and if they get lost from India, there will be more rupee for a dollar. More rupee, that means the value of rupee will go down. Rupee depreciation will happen. If rupee depreciation happens, that means the cost of import also will be accordingly high. Now last year, that means the last year 2021 pre-exam, they asked conceptual questions like this in pre-exam. So take note of this, right? Okay. So this is the wider impact on India's growth story. All right. So if we had fixed for a growth will happen. Growth might happen, but inflation also will happen. If the inflation is at 8% and GDP growth is at 8%, then what do people get? In fact, they get nil, right? The real growth is nil. All right. This is the problem. So global energy crisis that we were speaking of earlier, right? We had spoken about this in the last season. That was in the month of October, November, that the coal supplies were few, and then there was Russia had contained the prices of the fuel, especially the gas reserves. Then China had its own problems, multiple problems, right? And then cracked down on cryptocurrencies, holding of Winter Olympics, all those issues. USA, China, India, all these countries going through extreme disaster phases. So prices of energy was going high. We didn't speculate that this kind of problem would happen, but some way or the other, prices of energy is going high. So these articles become relevant for you. Strategic oil reserves, global energy crisis, non-OPEC countries, right? So if you remember, if you know, there's something called as the Asian premium. The countries in Middle East, they sell, or especially OPEC countries, they sell, these petroleum products to India, China at a premium, higher cost than the Western countries, right? And that's the reason that India, China have looked at diversifying sources. But how do we diversify? When these are the closest to us, this is a very lucrative offer for us. We can't go to Venezuela, no? It will also cost us something. So this is the reason that India must diversify through sources like alternate. So sun, what did I draw? Sun, wind, hydrogen, fuel cell, all of them. Right? These are the right alternatives for us. That is why so much focus. 50% of our energy requisite by 2030 through alternate sources. So lesser impact on Indian economy because of these global turmoils. This day in history dedicated to India being taken off of the polio endemic polio list, and this was the last year itself. India was taken out of the polio list in the year 2014 itself. 2011 declared as polio free, and then after that it takes 3 more years to understand that yes, there's no transmission of polio and no cross-border flow of a disease like polio. But India's neighborhood, there were 4 countries which are called as polio endemic: Pakistan, Afghanistan, India, and Nigeria. 4 countries. So India was taken off this list last year, finding that we are robust, our polio eradication program is robust, right? Time and again people get through this immunization program so that the children do not face issues through polio. All right. So among those paralyzed, nearly 5% die when the breathing muscles become immobilized. Look at this. All right. Feature news for today is on free trade agreement. We will understand what is the meaning of free trade agreement. How is it different from other agreements, right? What is the difference between free trade agreement and a complete economic union or comprehensive economic partnership agreement? We will also understand some concepts like rules of origin, right? And what are the key advantages, issues in present free trade agreements? What is the potential for our country? And what is the way in which we are going to realize that, right? So a couple of cases also to be discussed here. in the feature news discussion after this video. The image of the day is on Biosafety Level-3 mobile lab in India, right? So Biosafety Lab in India has gotten formed, and this is the first of its kind in South Asia. The level of hazards that we see, biohazard that we see in these days, is very high. Corona itself, not known to people how it would impact us, and that is the reason that we need to have better biosafety. So biosafety is not only about dealing with the organisms which we don't know about. This is also about the contamination of the products, our clothes itself. So how should they be later incinerated, or should we be handling every product inside the lab? If you have seen, there were various series. I saw one on Netflix that was on South Korean people going on moon and exploring that water has got a different potential there, right? So people shouldn't be even handling those stuff by their hands. So can we have some electronics or auto components handling this lab? So this is an advanced lab getting formed, already created in Nasik, Biosafety Lab level 3, right? Level 2, level 1 also exist. So emerging and re-emerging viral infections for them. All right. High efficiency, particulate absorbing, biological liquid waste, decontamination system, all of them. Terms and concepts. The first term for today is MILAN exercise. India has invited more than 40 countries, thinking, अब क्या होगा यहाँ पे? वहाँ तो Russia is engaged, USA, who will protect us? So let's invite 40 countries. They've invited 40 plus countries. Quite a few of them have sent their warships to Visakhapatnam. This is the largest exercise being held of its kind here in the Indian Ocean. India has been holding this biennial, once organized in 2 years, exercise in the nearby areas. Quad countries, Myanmar, Vietnam, Malaysia, all these countries have joined this exercise, right? So in the name of fine-tuning operational skills, discuss and pick up best practices, humanitarian assistance and disaster relief, India is gaining goodwill of all these partners. So why not? We should. After all, we don't spend much in our Indian naval capacity. Only 14% of the total budget allocated for defense is given to Indian Navy, right? Only 14%. So let's call upon our friends, right? South Korea, Myanmar, Malaysia, Bangladesh, Indonesia, all of them helping each other here, right? Camaraderie, cohesion, collaboration. Okay. Quantum key distribution test. Okay, what is this test? This test was lately carried out in Uttar Pradesh, right? What are the comments here? UAE's third official language is Hindi. Look at that. What about a country like Maldives? Majority of the population there is Indian. Indian expatriates, origin, persons of Indian origin. Ashutosh says, this shows the huge Indian diaspora anywhere, crisis in the world. Yes, and government has to run those programs, no? Evacuation programs, world's largest evacuation program ever. Second largest evacuation program ever. All of them by India only. Ashish says, sir, is this Ukraine crisis something to do with data? As you earlier said, most cryptography is done in those areas. And as data is the new oil, crisis is created just like Arab for oil. Data. See, Ukrainian companies are not that bad. Ukrainian companies, quite a few of them have become unicorns as well. And they are very well in IT services also. But I was speaking of the countries even in the colder areas, because that is the place where crypto mining is most efficient, right? So Ukraine is still not as cold as what Norway is and what Netherlands are, right? So Kriti says, I had read somewhere that Ukraine used to receive $2 billion from Russia for providing NG transit route. All right. Amlan says, in my state before coal crisis, it was 11 to 12 rupee, but now 17 to 18 rupees. All right. Price of bricks. Silent Sea. Yeah. Looks like they might have another season for it, because at the end they showed something very erratic. So, quantum key distribution test. This test was organized between two places, Vindhyachal and Prayagraj. Allahabad and Vindhyachal, at two places in Uttar Pradesh, 100 kilometers apart. The way to move ahead is quantum technology itself. This is beyond our regular semiconductor devices. Semiconductor devices is where India is trying to get in, but this is at a different level, a further minute level, a nano level. And now what India has done is that India has created a way in which defense forces can interact with the forces located at 100 kilometers distance from each other, and they would be using quantum computing through this, right? So both of them would have random generated password, both of them, and they would be able to give password to each other through this quantum key, and quantum mechanics will be used in this, right? So quantum further smaller fragments of the element, and this is how it is used. India is a newbie, a novice in this technology. Who are the superior ones? USA, China, and Republic of China. That is Taiwan. These are the countries which are of prime importance when we look at quantum computing. All right. So India has conducted this exercise successfully. This is good for defense secure communication. But then see, most of these semiconductor machines created and their technology created, it can be deciphered, it can be re-engineered, it can be reverse engineered as well. But quantum is not just about 1 and 0, it is about many other elements which can become a part of which can be between 1 and 0, and that is why it is very tough to break through quantum computing. And these kind of devices, quantum devices, also operate at a very, very high speed. So this is something that India is looking forward to explore. Currently very less capacity, just these case studies. Illegal trade of sea cucumber. Cucumber is an organism, a very, very vital part of the seas. In fact, now I am getting to know more about sea cucumbers. When I had gone to Andaman, I had seen a huge biodiversity. You would be surprised, and this is a good case study of Andaman. The regular part of Andaman, so we have the Neil Islands or the South Andaman itself. We also go to Havelock Islands, those places. The biodiversity is gone completely. We only have the bleached corals, white corals, and only fishes. Thousands of fishes, different kinds, you would be able to see. But there are few places which have been preserved in Andaman also. For example, there is one Mahatma Gandhi National Marine Park. Right, and I had gone there. This is in Port Blair itself, south of Port Blair, and they have two islands there. One is the Redskin Island, and the other one is Jolly Boy Island. Yes, Jolly Boy. And I had gone to Jolly Boy Island. What they do here is that they preserve one of the islands for 6 months, and there is no tourism allowed, and then they allow tourism in the other island, and they rotate it like this for 6 months. Through this, the complete biodiversity is maintained there, and here scuba diving is not allowed because the depth is hardly 6-7 feet. So a person drags us, and both of are snorkeling. We are swimming on the top, and they tow away both of us, and they show the kind of diversity for half an hour. I saw all of it. He even handed me, imagine, he even handed me starfishes of variety of colors, and he showed me sea cucumber. He showed me boulder corals as well. Hundreds of varieties of corals were there. So it was a magnificent sight, and I did see the sea cucumber. And now I have got to know that sea cucumbers are endangered species. They are a part of Schedule 1 of the Wildlife Protection Act. And you know the prices. The price of these sea cucumbers, these are like just cucumbers. Look like, as if there's a cucumber, kheera, and it's just lying there. But these are organisms, right? And these organisms cost as much as 2,500 euros for 1 kilo of a rare variety of sea cucumber, or general variety $300 to $500 euros, right? So imagine, can you please tell me the price in rupees? This would amount to around 3 lakh rupees per kilo, yeah. And they are all traded illegally, especially from the Indo-Sri Lanka region. They are found there also. They illegally traded to Southeastern nation and China. This is where they are in high in demand for medicinal purposes, and of course people eat also, right? And what is the importance of sea cucumber? It is a very, very important marine indicator, bio indicator there, ecological indicator, because they also maintain the level of carbon present in the water. So they also feed on detritus, so clean the seas. They help in recycling the nutrients, and excrete nitrogen, ammonia, and calcium carbonate. They slow the ocean acidification. Look at that. And now they have been traded illegally from one place to another. So this is, they are also a part of Schedule 1 of Wildlife Protection Act, IUCN Red List, endangered species. Total ban, but it's happening at Park Strait, Park Bay, all right, India itself. Star campaigner in use. So did you take sea diving? Yeah, I did. It was good. It was a great experience. But then, for scuba diving, the issue here is that we need to do a regular 5 to 6 day course, and only after that they allow us to dive by ourselves. Right now what they do is that to maintain buoyancy, they tow us away. We wear the complete gear that Hrithik Roshan, and Farhan Akhtar wore in Zindagi Milegi Na Dobara. We would wear that. We'd have the oxygen cylinders. We would have the masks, everything. We'd be photograph ready, but then we wouldn't be able to swim. We would have the fins also, but they wouldn't allow us to swim alone, because there is a technology, buoyancy is there, and then with buoyancy we swim above or go below, right? That is the issue. Amlan says, in which month is it best to visit Andaman? The best months to visit Andaman is the month of December, January. That's when it is most costly, and that is the time. See, there is also something called as turbidity, right? Turbidity of the ocean currents and turbidity of the ocean. Andaman is one place which has tropical climate, and just like places in Southeast Asia and places in Kerala, there is rainfall happening more than 6 months, right? So right from June, July to November until retreat of monsoons, it is rainfall, and because of rainfall, visiting any place is tough. Also, the sea turbidity causes people not to view these beautiful corals, right? So there must be clear water that happens during those seasons of non-rainfall, and during summers again it is very hot because of tropical times. So November, December, January. All right. Star campaigner. What are the best months to visit Ladakh? I will tell you that also, provided you answer quite a few questions here. Star campaigner. This has been news. Why? Because the Election Commission has raised the number of star campaigners in election campaigns. So the situation is such that are star campaigners those people who are film stars, musicians, sports stars? Is it necessary? I have a question for you. Please type it out. Are those the people, star campaigners, who are sports stars or film stars? No, that is not true. Anybody can be a star campaigner. See, if I am if I am contesting election from X constituency, any person from my political party or film star or anybody can be a star campaigner. Anybody who has a star figure, anybody, it could be anybody. So if it is the Prime Minister of India campaigning for me, I don't have an issue for itself, for it. The only contention here is that the star campaigner, see, so the prime agenda for a star campaigner is to campaign for that particular political party. They can't take the name of that particular person. They can't stand on the same dais of that particular person. They cannot travel with that same person to the same destination. If they do, why can't they? They can do it. But if they do this, if they travel with me, if the Prime Minister travels with me and says, vote for Harsh, right? Vote for BJP, vote for Harsh. That means that he is directly helping me here. And this is where the fundings, the state funding of election, state also gives some amount. No, state doesn't give, but state allocates, say 70 lakh. I think that is the amount for a specific place, right? So if they have allocated 70 lakhs, all the travel expenses of the Prime Minister, not specifically the Prime Minister, because Prime Minister's bulletproof vehicles, for them, security arrangements, we don't have to pay. For his security arrangements, the government will pay. But for anybody else, I will have to pay. They will be a part of my expenses, right? So this is the reason that people use star campaigners, but they don't travel with them. They just campaign about a political party. So, for example, anybody, Manohar Parrikar travels, but not standing with me on dais, becomes a star campaigner campaigning for BJP, but indirectly they will be campaigning for me as well. So this is the point. Election Commission has currently raised the number of people who could campaign, right, for different kind of political parties. The recognized political parties 30 to 40, and then unrecognized, I think 10 to 15. This is what they have raised again. During COVID times they had reduced. Star campaigners could be a celebrity vote seeker in an election for a party. No law governing who can be or who cannot be a star campaigner, right? So 40 star campaigners for a recognized political party. Expenditure incurred on electioneering by star campaigners is not added to candidates' poll expenditure. So this is a leeway, this is a profit for a person, but only if they don't stand together, right? Oh, mentioned that point. However, the Prime Minister or the former Prime Minister is a star campaigner. The expenditure incurred on the security, including bulletproof vehicles, will be borne by the government. But apart from that, everything else, Prime Minister's food, I will have to pay. Prime Minister's, clothing, if they have used, I will have to pay. If there is a photograph, wherever the star campaigner is campaigning, if my photograph has been put, then I will have to pay for all the expenses in all that place, right? So this is the norm, all right? Okay, what is the answer, Pooja? You're giving, sir, partially. Let's look at the next articles in news, editorials of the day. Digital media literacy in schools, very important. Digital media literacy. See, the article primarily says in Hindustan Times that digital media literacy has been missed out completely by the policy for education. National Education Policy 2020 completely missed on making people literate, especially the children literate of digital media. And this is the reason that we see almost 50% of population, see, these are surveys conducted, almost 50% of India's population, world's population at places, which is getting impacted through fake news, right? And those kind of news which are very much inflammatory. Misinformation spread through social media application. 49% of the global population are active users have been linked to entrenched social polarization. This has led to social polarization, the rise of authoritarianism, vaccine hesitancy, and real life violence. Imagine this. This is all because of the people not literate about social media. So this leads to more of fake news, more of misinformation among people, and then people are not able to segregate what is right, what is wrong. And then we also get polarized further and leads to real life violence. This is a serious issue. This is where the article says that there are two things that must be done. One is self-regulation. Remember, we covered quite a few articles on this. Self-regulation of digital media becomes very important from another perspective. This is one. And the second one, it says that digital media literacy should be given to all, and especially to the children, right? So these are the two important things. They also say that the state also must act on this. But imagine if the district commissioner, if the DC of that particular district is acting on or if the state government is acting on this, this is a very volatile process, because what thing has to be curtailed, what information has to be revealed in the public, this becomes a very political issue. You understand, no? So if lynching has happened, should that be a part of the discourse? Or if eating of meat has happened, that should be a part of banning the news item. What is the one? So this is a very political volatile process. This has been missed in national education policy, but people must be made more literate about media. This is the complete crux of this article. All right. The second one is quite interesting. It's on European security architecture. As I had discussed just a while back, USA is the one which gets advantage out of the gas pipelines, because USA has been already selling gases to European countries at cheaper prices, and now with Russia getting sanctioned, USA will have further sales. USA has got an upper hand, not even sending its forces there. So that is one thing to look at. The other thing to look at is European Union. European Union is the one which is falling behind. Although France, Germany have attempted to bargain with Russia and Ukraine together, but then Russia is mainly interacting with USA also. Right? Why? Because it is USA's NATO weaponry which has been installed close to Russia, in Poland, in various other countries around. Right? So Russia wants USA to withdraw, NATO to withdraw. Russia doesn't want European Union to withdraw. Right? Primarily, NATO was the one which is being objected, and who thrusted upon NATO in the East Asian countries? It is USA itself. Very, very clear examples of it. For example, in 2014, when Viktor Yanukovych was evicted out, USA had a greater role to play there, right? In 2013 as well, when negotiations were happening, it was USA which negotiated that NATO should be extended to Ukraine. It encouraged it, right? Other people were not as active, but USA was. They also violated on those agreements that were made in 1980s before USSR fragmentation. They had said very clearly they will not expand further east after East Germany, right? But they did expand. USA is the major culprit here, looking back, right? And now it has led to Crimean annexation, and now it has also led to the annexation of, not annexation, but an attack on Ukraine as well, right? So who is the sufferer? European Union is the sufferer. They should have interacted within themselves, and this is leading to further fragmentation of European security, energy security and defense security, all of them. You see, because energy security, because now the prices of all the energy products will go high. The prices of what about the diplomatic security between countries? Germany is not happy. Germany wanted those gas reserves, gases, but now it has to object to it. So there is an impact on European economy which is not being respected. That is why shaking up of Europe's security architecture. This is what has happened. Editorial clearly points out at particular that, right? And it also says Minsk Accords. America's interpretation that Russia must go back first and then we will give autonomy. So these indicated very clearly to Russia that USA is not listening. We will have to take the hard step, right? So I'm not justifying it. The editorial points out at Russia, USA to be primarily blamed, and European Union is the one which is getting affected, right? So at the end paragraph also says that India must remain at vigil in the South Asian region, right? Indo-Pacific region. So this is where you could relate it to the MILAN exercises that we are conducting. All right. So good perspective. Ploughing a niche channel for India's food systems. All right. So this editorial is on on food security and nutrition security. Moving from food security to nutrition security. India is food secure, but 1/4 of the global population, they might need more food. India has got good opportunities to export food. Yes, this is what reminds me of you people mentioning some points on Russia. So when you said what is the impact on India, see, Russia has been one of the places which has been exporting rice. Now, if Russia will not be exporting, who will be? India will be exporting rice and wheat, especially wheat products, right? Wheat. So this is a colder area, not rice, but wheat. So millets and wheat, coarse grains, India has the opportunity right now. I'm not saying that India got the opportunity, but then since the prices will rise, India will have a greater say in wheat export. This is one. The second thing is India also exports tea to Ukraine. India exports tea to Russia. Those will get impacted because they won't have demand. They are already fighting. Will they drink tea in that time? I wonder. So these export and imports will get impacted in the process, right? And getting back to this article, food system. So what is required is to have a better food system. It indicates at the same thing, right? So the food system will include not only food safety, but nutrition safety. And for nutritional security, we will have to garner same things: mechanization, precision, assured irrigation, inputs. They must be greener in inputs. Greener input, that means sustainable inputs, that means organic inputs, all that. So this is what has been the crux of this editorial. So we should stop looking at food security, start looking at nutrition security through the eyes of food systems. So few additional points that you could look at are the contribution of agriculture in greenhouse gases emissions. This is one. You should also look at food wastage. You should also look at the kind of malnutrition the country is going through. This has been mentioned in this editorial itself. India being rated as 101 in global hunger index, and then all those causes. All right. If you like this initiative, share some love through likes, comments, and shares. Right. Inputs, feedbacks, improvements, anything, please suggest. And case study of the day is on a couple from South, and what they're doing is that they're conducting marriage devoid of the regular feras, of the regular kanyadan, all those procedures which are traditional part of the marriage in India. And they've also encouraged in a way the self-respect movement, self-respect initiated by Periyar, E.V. Ramaswamy Nayakar, right? So self-respect movement is what they have propagated. In fact, my own friend, a very close friend, she's an IPS right now, and she and another friend of mine, I got them connected and they got married. Both of them in police service, one of them in ITBP, one of them in Indian Police Services. And they chose to get married in this particular form itself. I saw that marriage happening. They do not, so usually it is a priest. It is a priest or whatever you would call as, or Maulvi, or a father in the church, or a pandit. Any of them, they are the ones who ensure that the vows are taken, 7 vows or whatever be the vows, and then you may now kiss the bride kind of thing. But they said, we will take our vows, we will declare what we commit to each other to. And they also planted a sapling. So this is how they conducted their marriage, respecting their own selves, right? Respecting their institutions, their words. This is what is about a homogeneous culture that we are trying to develop against casteism, right? Against orthodox treatment, against commercialization of institution of marriage. All right. So everyone has the right to refuse any opinion, but no one has the right to prevent its expression. So people expressing in the right way. All right. This is the case study of today. And let me see. Why PM there? Yesterday, our PM also emphasized on dialogues between NATO and Russia. Yes. Yesterday, the Prime Minister there was a cabinet committee on security. There's a cabinet committee on security, which has the Home Minister, Prime Minister, and important ministers, and also the NSA, National Security Advisor. So they had a meeting for half an hour. They spoke to Russian president also. So that was conducted, right? Pooja, I didn't get your question. Why PM there? Do you mean why Prime Minister is here in campaigning? Prime Minister can campaign for the party. They can campaign. There's no problem on that. So this is the update. If you like this video, share some love through likes, comments, and shares. If you subscribe to the channel, you will receive timely updates. And I know that all of you have subscribed to this channel. So we will meet you quickly in the next video, that is on the featured news, free trade agreements. We'll discuss quite a beautiful article there. Thank you for participation.